Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. This is the Way to Native Chronicles, where we take on history, treaties, and modern political claims with respect, evidence, and a willingness to challenge popular narratives, along with other topics like hunting and trapping and so forth. Today's video is about a claim that comes up constantly online. But Treaties 6, 7, and 8, were they secret frauds? Were the Indigenous leaders fundamentally misled about their contents, and that the real treaties were oral agreements that contradicted the written text? That sounds compelling, but when we examine the historical record carefully, it does not hold up. So what is this claim? The argument usually goes something like this, that Indigenous leaders were told something completely different than what was written down, that the written treaties don't reflect what was actually agreed to, and that later oral arguments proved the treaties were fraudulent from the start. This video is not about denying Indigenous oral history. It is about separating what can be proven from what is being asserted decades later. So let's take a look at the negotiation process, which wasn't secret or rushed. First, the treaties were not negotiated in secret. Treaties 6, 7, and 8 were negotiated over weeks and months, not in a single rushed set of meetings. There were repeated discussions, multiple gatherings, translators present, and opportunities to delay or refuse. In fact, many leaders did refuse initially and demanded changes or postponed their signing. Let's be sensible here. That alone undermines the idea that the leaders were simply tricked or railroaded into agreements they didn't understand. Let's take a look at the issue of translation and understanding. Yes, translation was imperfect. Yes, cultural concepts didn't always align cleanly. But imperfect translation is not the same thing as fraud. There is no consistent contemporaneous evidence that Crown negotiators promised continued full sovereignty or veto power over settlement or the absence of Crown authority, claims often made today but not supported by the records from the time. Different leaders understood the treaties differently, yes, but that is very different from saying there was a single hidden oral treaty contradicting the written one. Now, let's take a look at oral history. Oral history absolutely does matter. Canadian courts have repeatedly said that it must be taken seriously and weighed fairly, but oral history is not infallible and it is not uniform either. Many oral accounts were recorded decades later, after immense social disruption, residential schools, poverty, and political activism had a chance to reshape memory and interpretation. Court weighs oral history alongside written text, conduct, historical context, and contemporaneous records, not above them. How about post-treaty conduct? Another critical point that often gets ignored is what happened after the treaties were signed. For decades, treaty nations accepted annuities. They accepted reserve systems. They dealt with the federal government as the governing authority. They asserted rights of theirs within the treaty framework, not outside of it. If leaders genuinely believed they had retained full sovereignty and veto power over settlement, we would expect to see immediate and consistent rejection of Crown authority. But that didn't happen. Now let's take a look at the matter of court interpretation. Canadian courts have consistently ruled that the treaties must be interpreted liberally and honorably in favor of Indigenous signatories. But courts have also been clear about this. The written treaties are legally binding. They are not replaced by unproven oral claims that directly contradict the text. Courts interpreted the treaties generously, but they do not invent entirely new agreements after the fact. So what does this mean and what does it not mean? None of this means the treaties were perfect. None of this means colonialism was just or harmless. And none of this means Indigenous grievances are illegitimate. What it does mean is this: calling Treaties 6, 7, and 8 secret frauds is not historical or accurate legally. Respecting Indigenous peoples does not require abandoning evidence, chronology, or law. Truth matters, even when it's uncomfortable. So, in conclusion, The fairest conclusion is this, I think. Treaties 6, 7, and 8 were imperfect colonial-era agreements, but they were not hidden scams, and they were not replaced by secret oral versions that nullify the written terms. If we want reconciliation to mean anything, it has to be built on honest history and not convenient mythology. In closing, I would like to hear your thoughts. Do you think this issue is often oversimplified online? Or do you disagree with my conclusions? Then let me know down in the comments. If you found this video helpful, please click like. It really helps the video reach more people. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to this channel for more long-form, respectful discussions like this. You can also support the channel through Super Thanks or buy me a coffee. There are links in the description for that. So in conclusion, thanks for watching The Way to Native Chronicles. I'll catch you next time. Did you like this video? If you did, I think you're going to like this one right over here. So check it out. And I appreciate your subscribing if you haven't done so already. Remember to do that while you're watching this next video. Click like, it all helps us out for this channel. Catch you next time.